place next to Clover.
The next is this. Okay, all right, Mr. Chair, for what?
I'd like to call this meeting to order. It's the 25th of August, 2021. Someone do have a roll call. First items on the agenda, they are approval of prior minutes. Packet.
I see no issues. I make the motion to approve.
Well, second.
I'm sorry, for clarification.
Second, for the third thing on the agenda.
We need to approve the agenda first.
Oh, I'm sorry, approval of agenda. We have approval of the agenda, change the agenda. We have a motion to approve that.
You know what, I too, I do have an addition, just one comment under A1.
7.
Yeah, number 7A1. So I don't know, you want to call it A1,
Yeah.
AA.
Yeah, A1 with. Yeah, title for that.
Number 2 back up. No issues, just
Make a motion to approve the agenda with that addition.
second.
Motion has been made and seconded. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Motion is carried. Good. Second the motion. Okay, so the approval of minutes has been made and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Carried.
I'm sorry, Mr. Chair, just for clarification, is that the approval for both sets of minutes? Or just-
That was my intention. I hope my colleagues would agree.
I can amend mine to include A and B, the regular meeting and the private or closed meeting, for lack of so and honestly.
Thank you, I just wanted to be.
Yep.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
And we won't make any comment about the.
No,
This is right.
no, that is off.
Minutes have been approved.
Oh,
Moving forward. Number 4 is the public comment area. Roman, do you have any comments that were sent to you?
I do not.
Butcher, any comments sent to you?
No, sir.
I will read what was sent to me. I received one in my email, so I'll read it as it was written. To Mr. Hanson and the rest of the Utilities Commissioners. My name is Hans Pappenhausen. I live at 7703 4th Avenue South in Princeton, and I have lived there for almost 4 years when I purchased my home. I had put a deposit on my utilities, which I did, and per your policy, it stated that within 2 years of consistent payments without paying late, that deposit is to be returned. I know that I have not fallen under the payments not paid policy, and that has held up my deposit being returned. There are times in life that one may need an extra day. Need an extra day to a payday to make those payments. I also have a job that requires me to be on the road a lot. I'm asking that my deposit be returned to the fact that yes, I've been late, but I'm also current on my current bill. My home is paid for, and I plan on residing here for a while. I have also spoken to Mr. Erickson on this matter, and I believe about a year ago or so, and he mentioned that there may be some sort of policy in effect that gives a few days leeway that may be good policy to have in place. If I'm late, I pay the late fee and I take my rights. But I also feel that I have sworn excuse me, I also feel that I have shown us three payments enough who aren't getting the deposit back. Thank you for your time. Are there any other comments? There are none. We will move on. Certification of accounts payable.
The only comment I have on that, and I haven't brought it up for a while, but because I saw a larger number under credit card company 71. Looking at that number on a monthly basis, times it by 12, we usually come out around 22, 24, 26, or 24, maybe get kind of an average. We take that 2677.75 times 12 months, we're at 32,000 plus. So it's a high month, which is higher than anything since I've been doing this. Just random sample that why it's higher, I don't know. People just use credit card a lot. So just to bring that to the attention on the ongoing ACH program, the initiation of that for 2 years. But I believe that's what we discussed. So that's all I have.
Item number 171.
No. And also, 26, that's a standard 24, also we're at 32 credits for a month.
Yeah.
But the system that I've been using is consistent, it's that number times 12, look at it as an average, and it hovers in that 24, 26 area. So.
Kathy, any insight into why that was maybe higher?
Yes, when I paid our company, Neon Link, the check got lost in the mail from back in, it was May. So I had to replace that check, and that's why it was higher.
Do you remember the amount?
Was it like 2 months? Are you saying it was like 2 months worth?
Yes, yeah.
That makes sense.
That makes it more. Acceptable.
Right,
I take a breath.
Right.
Okay. Good, thank you for that.
Yeah, that's a big clarification, but watching eyes and see.
No, yeah, got it. Any other comments about the accounts payable? It's a particularly high simple bill this month. I'm used to seeing them 300s. This month was 475. They must have been using some electricity last month.
Yeah.
What's up with that?
Summer.
Any other comments? Motion to accept those as certified accounts payable. So I'll second. Motion's been made to accept the accounts payable. All those in favor say aye. Motion is carried. Mr. Butcher, the next sections are kind of yours.
Yeah, all the standard reports are in your packets. Unless you have any questions on those.
Okay. Financial reports, income statement, any things you want to mention about those?
No, that's it. There are any questions?
Just, could you?
July, the end of July, in the electric, we have 132 days of cash on hand. If you include rate stabilization account, it's at 206. On the water side, we're at 465.
132 electric.
Correct.
That's the number. Compared to
It's better.
Yeah.
Yes. But at the same time, water is dry.
Yeah. Right, but not quite a linear comparison.
No, so the water is dropping. And the electric is-
Well, again, you want to be careful with month-to-month stuff, which is why I provide all the historical data. The electric, I guess if you look from the prior month, it dropped by 5 days. Again, that's not typical, or I'm sorry, there is going to be some variability from month to month. On the water side, it did go up, but that's, again, it's because sales are always higher for us in the summer than it is in the winter, so we have higher revenues. And in addition, on the water side, because of the delay, the AMI water notes, which we a significant expense, since we haven't gotten in yet. So, whereas I would have expected the water to continue to decrease as we use the cash reserve to pay for the AMI upgrade, it did not in this case because
Guess I'm just thinking as opposed to a year ago this time, much less water days. It was improved. So. Right. Okay. Thank you for that. And updates. What would be for updates? Oh, I'm sorry. Do you want to start?
That's fine. I captured.
well, Rick had the addition.
That's-
Correct.
Yeah, I can do it prior to number one generation or after, because it's just a comment. As we talked at the last meeting about number two being a, second in line type of thing, being a crossover. So to be able to move and have two apps, if you will, to be familiar with it. I will probably do it, of course, it all keep up, but it's good. But I think we're missing an opportunity for that person in second position to be sitting here and experience this. That's my opinion. See what I'm saying from what we talked about last time? Just to get them in the loop. Whoever that may be, Jeremy, if you have a second, so if you're gone, who do you would trust? Who's your next person in line?
Whoever I had asked, if that's what was,
But
that's what they wanted.
Is there a go-to that you'd be more comfortable with?
Under Jeremy are 3 line workers with all equal rights.
Okay.
And so it really is, given how close of a team Jeremy has.
Yep.
It really depends on the day. I mean, he has a very good staff, very capable, and he allocates his resources as he needs to.
Yeah, this isn't a complaint, it's just to further explore being familiar with all workings of it if you work here. So because some of these people might be very afraid of sitting in that chair, because that's not what they do. But I think it may be an opportunity for whomever would be, if you were gone, we had a conversation, if you're gone for 6 months or 6 weeks. So, and you don't have to answer that.
We had done that in the interim between when Ryan left and when I officially took over with our weekly meetings. Whoever was on call that week would
Be that person.
sit in on that, so everybody had a sense of what it was and what we were trying to get at, what we were trying to accomplish as an organization. Yeah.
So that's on your side now, with Scott not being here, and you're hearing the reports, which you're certainly qualified at doing. Are we missing that? Should Jim be sitting in here, or Kenny, or who's the number 2 there? So we had a conversation about that. To have more responsibility than just A, or just B, but to share. It extends the family, I think, from a knowledge point of view, not just their job. That's all I was commenting on with your email.
Okay. I think that's something we'll have to discuss with staff and chats.
They don't necessarily have to talk, but say that. See what's like.
I probably went to Jeremy just because of electric department updates, but if you want to talk about the generation plan, chief, this is your opportunity.
Yes, sir. Just give the commission update on, kind of over the last month. The number 3 engine test run went after repairs went very well, so 3 is back online, and as was mentioned before the meeting, you heard that we were doing a rookie exercise today, so everything is running well. We did find coolant in the number 7 airbox samples again. We're working with Ziegler Cat to potentially replace the air coolers. Unfortunately, those parts are on back order with unknown delivery time. We are keeping the engine in service for emergency only, rather than trying to disassemble it and just leave it apart in case something like that. So we're keeping it intact until we have a better timeline for those new air coolers. So overall, you're running fast. And Ziegler is talking about having one at Caterpillar engineers actually come up this time. We also perform battery maintenance on checks and replace fuel filters. We are currently reviewing our inventory counts and our inventory process to ensure that the appropriate parts are on hand to minimize our downtime for all engines. We verified our plant project list specific for next year. We're going to do some water diversion away from the foundation power plant, and we're upgrading the relaying equipment from electromechanical to solid state for units 3, 4, and 5. The boiler rehab is complete, and that is back in service. We're going to replace the ballast tank after the run season is complete. We like to wait till after the heating season. That's what we usually call it. So just because if we take that down, then as we're working on 3, we did notice some residues. So we had APAC, one of our contractors, pull jacket water samples to ensure that we're having proper water protection and not damaging the equipment. Completed condensate drain line for the plant air handler, and we're doing preventive maintenance. We did preventive maintenance on the cooling fan motor, so we will make it away and check the air. So those are the updates from the tower. Any questions?
Did you say they're running today?
They were, yes.
But some stacks from is that just our regular maintenance run or cold?
That was a monthly exercise.
Okay. From the distribution side, Mr. Lynn.
Yeah, we have pretty much wrapped up our AMI installs. We got just 6 meters remaining, and I'm working on getting those. We're 3 of them are at one facility. They're open all the time. So we're playing phone tag, trying to get that figured out. The underground project we have on North 17th Avenue is almost complete. We've got all the primary heated up. Most of the services got over. We're just finishing up a couple there. Moving along with the Rivertown project, the apartment buildings that are going out. We're working on getting other developers' costs and some time estimates. We're also going to be starting.
Excuse me, Jeremy.
Yeah.
Do you want to let them know about the lead times on transformers?
Yeah,
That's important.
I went out for quotes on the transformers for the 2 apartment buildings. The costs are up a little bit to be expected, but the lead times are right now between 22 and 24 weeks. And historically, they're 6 to 8. I've seen 12 to 14 if they're exceptionally busy, but we're looking at 6 months, 5.5, 6 months now.
So it's the work with the contractors. The whole project took that long?
I don't know. I'm waiting to see. I'm hoping to have another quote back from another vendor today. They said it was going to be back beginning of the week. So hopefully their lead time is a little bit shorter. But
What are these transformers for? Specifically a certain job?
yes, these are for the one for each of the apartment buildings that they're going to be building out on First Street, where they're
What used to be the bricks project?
it is the bridge project.
Still
Yeah,
called bricks?
it is again. Oh yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So unfortunately, that's where we're at. We had discussed these timelines and stuff with the general contractor, Mr. Briggs, earlier this summer, or earlier this spring, in fact, probably, and told him we needed the information, and I fortunately just received it last week. So as soon as I got it, I went out for bids on the transformers. So
Just so the commission is aware, our policy is, especially for, these are 300 kVA transformers, not something that we stock, so it is for this purpose. Which we don't order until we get an application for service, and as well as 50% down on the electric connection gears, which we have not received yet. So that's what starts our clock.
What is the cost typically?
Right now, they're just shy of $10,000 a piece.
It's not something we stop. Fine.
No.
No, we have,
That's what I was wondering.
we have, I think, one sitting in our, I mean, there's some that have been purchased for projects before that never went anywhere, but they're sizes and configurations that we will eventually use, but not when we're starting to get this big. So we're not in the business of having hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of inventory just in case. So we have some backups, but not, we've got a couple big ones for Walmart, hospital, wastewater treatment plant, and then we have one that's a 500 that would run any business that we had in town if we had to.
Right.
So we got a replacement unit. So we got a replacement unit, yeah. Yeah, then we're gonna be starting a small project over, well, it's on Highway 85, where Mark Griffith's property, the guy that's got the earth moving equipment over by the old A&W, for those that have been around long, and I think probably the majority of us would. Yeah, we're gonna put it underground, reroute it away from this building. So we're gonna be starting that. And then just continually giving information to DGR for the system study. That's going along really well. Hopefully that should be getting wrapped up here in not too distant future. And then just the daily and monthly stuff, service installs, service orders, GIS labeling, stickering, locates, they've been picking up again now, so.
I can go back just for a second. These transformers that are unusually large, where do they come from? Are they American made or?
We currently, one company, well, Solomon is out of Solomon, Kansas. They're from that Kansas, Ohio area. They're refurbished, remanufactured. They go through them, rewind them, both on the primary and secondary side, repaint them, make sure they're all sealed up, not leaking stuff. So we've had pretty good luck with them. So yeah, good.
One question, may not be your territory, maybe the city council, is Briggs back in that project? I was
I
under,
can answer that question as part of my update.
okay, great. I thought you might.
Okay.
I'll Michelle answer that. You.
Thank you, sir.
Papa John's, install some water lines for a home with pond view, excuse me. Completed our monthly filter testing, did some weeding around in the rock beds around the two water treatment plants. As part of the apartment complex out here, we think the contractors out there did find a deep well that was old and abandoned. So we've been working with the construction crew to make sure that well is properly sealed. Some valve box repair, adjusted the curb stop. We verified, well, as a commission will recall, we had our smoke containment plan approved. We did some verification just because we wanted to be comfortable with the volumes and just verify that all the volumes met, and so that went well. We painted the doors at water treatment plant number 2, did our normal back PA for our testing.
Thank you. Mr. Pearson, are you first or second? It looks like you're first, so we'll let you go.
Okay, so we have a city council meeting tomorrow night. Commissioner Erickson asked about the shipwreck project, which is going to become a brewery. The annexation of that public hearing is tonight. First reading is tentatively scheduled also for tonight. They've gone through site plan review with city staff. We had that conversation a week ago Monday. And so I anticipate, assuming we have first reading tomorrow, second reading will be in 2 weeks, and then it has to go to the state for their magic, which usually takes 30 to 45 days, and then it gets recorded. So figure 60, just over 60 days to finish, assuming there aren't any hiccups. So did you have a more specific question that I didn't cover, or?
I was just wondering if they were.
No, they're remodeling the existing building. Yeah. Yeah, they want to use the existing building. They have plans to, their current elevations show a lighthouse up front. They are working with Coburn's on some sort of cross promotional stuff. So yeah, so they're gonna basically use the existing building and.
Look at the city sewer.
Yep. Yep, there's a line in fact, back when Coburn's was built, the developer's agreement with the city was that instead of paying special assessments, Coburn's installed all of the infrastructure, water, sewer, stormwater, with the understanding that anyone developing along the south side of the road would end up paying assessments payment to Coburn's. And the developer for Shipwreck managed to negotiate that down to $0. Yeah, after 15 years plus interest, it would have been a ridiculously high number. So we basically, as a city staff, kind of stepped out of that negotiation. We just kind of hooked up the developer with the right person at Coburn's, and then we said, we're out. It's not our deal. You guys figure out what it is that you need to pay. And so according
Zero's a pretty good number.
there's a very good number.
Yeah, it was like 75,000 or something like that.
It would have been based on compounded interest over 15 years at whatever. So
Nice job getting on the way to that.
yeah, we just, I said, Steph and I did have a preliminary conversation with the gentleman in the real estate division of Coburn's, and I just said, I looked at Stephanie and said, this is not our negotiation. We just need to hook them up and get out of the way and let them deal with each other. So let's see, budget discussions are starting. Tracy and I met with fire chief today, talk about proposed expenditures. We'll be meeting with all of the department heads. We have a study session next week. We won't have a preliminary budget for the council, but we will have a list of issues and things to talk about in terms of what we're anticipating in terms of increased costs, cost savings, potential revenue streams. One of the things that will potentially impact the city, well, I know it's not a potential, I'm sure that you've seen in the paper the county's budget difficulties. You just talked about your cash on hand. For operating, the county has no budget reserves. In fact, earlier this year, they were actually running a negative general fund. Yeah, that was pretty much a shock to me. The county, I don't know where we're at yet because we haven't gotten health insurance numbers, but we're planning conservatively, knowing that we can slide the levy back since once we certify the levy at the end of September, we can't increase the levy. We have to work below that number. But numbers from the county, they're planning on 7% on a health insurance increase, 2% on COLAs, and the sheriff's office, because they're short 8 jailers in the jail, are looking at an increase in their overtime budget of about $300,000 for over and above last year's number, because Department of Corrections has been, to use the vernacular, up in their grill about the lack of staffing in the jail. So it's, there's a lot of overtime going on because they can't keep correctional officers. It's just all ignored. So that's the lovely budget update. 21st Avenue is proceeding. We have a scheduled bid opening next Thursday. We'll see how the numbers come in. We have an opening that we've advertised for, and applications have closed for position at the wastewater treatment plant. We had 10 applicants, if I remember right. And we're interviewing 5. 2 are very strong candidates, and 3 warranted interviews. One of which is a veterans preference applicant, so they automatically get an interview regardless. So RFPs for our classification and compensation study are due on Friday at 3. So Teresa and I will look at those next week, and we will see where we are from. We have money budgeted. We'll see if the proposals come in at or under budget. So we'll see. In terms of the apartments, I can confirm that Mr. Briggs initially sold to his partner, but his partner has asked him to come back into the project to bring capital. Our conversation with Mr. Briggs probably 3 weeks ago now was that their cost overruns for materials, what they had originally budgeted, is about $1 million to $1.5 million over what they had originally gotten quotes and estimates. Lumber, the shell alone went up about $900,000 just for the materials and just the shell. So, so Mr. Briggs is coming back into the project to bring capital back into the project because the bank is only going to borrow so much. So we'll be doing a minor amendment to the developer's agreement to bring Mr. Briggs back into the project as another party to the developer's agreement.
Wasn't his health the reason for his exit to begin with?
No, well,
That's what I heard.
yeah, he was pretty forthcoming when he met with us, and like with a lot of people, COVID kind of reevaluated his work-life balance, and his work-life balance was definitely out of balance in regards to work. And so he basically sold all his projects, and now he's having seller's remorse, I think, a little bit. I think he's got rid of too much on the work side now, and I think he wants to be, yeah, he's still trying to find, my impression was he was trying to find what the balance should be. I think he's, I mean, I've known, or I met Pat when I was working in Alberta, so he's not one to just not do something. It's just not in his nature. And so I think he's trying to figure out what projects he should be involved in, that kind keeps the work and the life a little more balanced. I think he swung the pendulum a little too far in the other direction, so.
I had breakfast with him one time, we went out to stop, and it seemed like his plate was very full.
It's always been very full. And he told me he went to, I want to say Haiti, and did some volunteer work building houses and schools for, a month or so. And that helped. Yeah, that kind of helped get, I think he went too far the other way and sold too much. I think he needs to be dabbling in something. So now he's gonna be back to dabble in this project again. So that's, I think, yeah. Did I miss anything?
The simulcast.
Oh, yes. So we are still searching for dollars to install our simulcast radio system. We have the tower at City Hall. And so we have a quote for the equipment, which is about $550,000. So we're meeting tomorrow with the two counties. We've invited the Princeton and Baldwin townships to the meeting, and then our public safety staff. Basically, by upgrading and installing a simulcast, first responders that are in a building won't lose their signal and won't lose their ability to communicate with each other. And so it's pretty significant public safety investment for good reasons. So hopefully we can figure out how to pay for it, because as with everything else, the dollars aren't going to get any cheaper. And unfortunately, the grant program that we were originally going to apply through, the state shuffled money around, and now that program is no longer available. So we're trying to figure out how we can cost share. So, but at least we have a tower to install the equipment on. So
Yeah, this has been an ongoing
it's been a 3-year
issue.
Yeah.
Well, but I mean, the lack of being able to communicate with emergency personnel for, since I was a police officer in Princeton in 1978. And we're still dealing with it, but we're getting somewhere.
Is it really short?
Yeah.
But I mean, yeah, that things change so rapidly with grants. I think you have a handle on it. It changes, and so we're still dealing with it. And hopefully we can get some answers.
Yeah, we're hoping that. So with the American Rescue Plan dollars, so everybody, all jurisdictions are getting dollars. So the city, in fact, we have the first half of our monies. Obviously, the counties are getting a significantly larger contribution from the federal government. So we're hoping that we can tap into and get some of their monies to help reduce our ultimate costs, because we're still going to have ongoing. It's not just the initial investment of equipment, it's also the ongoing maintenance, which we have to negotiate as to who's going to cover that. But I just need to get the equipment paid for. And our American Rescue Plan funds is roughly $530,000, and we have other demands on that money or proposed uses for that money as well. So I don't want to put it all in the simulcast basket when it's going to benefit law enforcement from the county and from Sherburne County, because it's got a pretty long reach. So we'd like to spread the cost over several jurisdictions. So we'll see where we get tomorrow.
And then we've had open discussions about orderly annexation.
Yes, we have.
That has been going on. Council is interested in discussing that with town board members, and our mayor has been proactive. Has been meeting or will meet there. Just discussing some possibilities on orderly annexation for the city, and that'll be ongoing for a while.
Yeah, he's, the mayor's has established like monthly breakfast meetings with the 2 town board chairs, so we need to talk about issues common to the jurisdiction, so we'll probably use that conduit as a means to start discussing how we can proceed with annexation. So the city council is interested in being a little more proactive as opposed to reactive, waiting for landowners to come forward. So,
Questions back to it. So,
yep, so that's,
how does that affect us? We use that for other things if we need to get something settled.
It's only for the first access.
I have to talk to, I'll ask Todd and Ron to see if there's a benefit for your people. I don't know enough about what this, what signals or, what frequencies everybody's on when they're in the situation, so.
I think it would be there'd be some benefits to you in respect that if you are at a site and say you have a disconnect or something's going on and you need to communicate an emergency, that you have the radio capacity to do that wherever you are.
So it's not for the first net edition, it's for all.
On radio.
Yeah, it's,
So if you're on portable and you
Yep.
need to communicate, you will have capability to do that whether you're inside or outside within the, So I think that you might want to confirm that with.
So it's not cellular, it's radio.
no, it's the actual radio system.
Radio.
Okay.
Yeah, so you might want to confirm that with Ron and Todd and the emergency operations people.
Yeah.
But I believe it would help you.
Recall we had Susan resident. Radio out just 2 blocks away. To walk outside to it, but which was not an emergency situation. It was a fire.
And this is what our emergency personnel have been experiencing since the
Cell phone-
beginning of the radio.
Cell phone won't either, so.
Yeah.
In that particular purpose, it's a concrete slab floor, so I don't know what it would be like in our generation.
And I always go back to 9/11. I was in that era there, and the communications was terrible throughout the whole country, and including in those cities, it's New York, and that no one could communicate not very well. And the federal government said, they get a handle on this, and well, we're still sitting here 20
Yeah.
years later,
Right.
and still have difficulty talking. So, as a council person, I'm just hoping that is one of the things I really like to see accomplished if we can get her done. And put aside the monies and costs, but just get everybody together to do a fair share thing here. Let's get it done. I also wanted to comment that since Michelle has come here, I've always believed, and I still do, just get out of the way and let them get the job done. And I see our city staff is doing that. They're working, they're hard. There's so much on the agenda that they are getting done and accomplishing and having foresight on and all these sort of things. And I appreciate that. And it comes back to us. And if there's a problem, then we get involved. That's why I love your administrator reports that you give, because it's just overwhelming sometimes what's happening in the city. There's a lot going on. We're council members, if you're commissioners, you meet once a month. I meet 3 times a month. you know, so you have to rely on your staff, and we totally do with this current staff that we have. And that's why, that's another issue here too, you mentioned, is the compensation study. I really want to see that happen. And we've been advocates for that the last few years to see where our people are at. We want to keep our people because we've got good people. That's bottom line, I know. So I'm happy with that. And then it'll be interesting to see, I know we had some just brief discussions on, with the budget, just a little bit on the side about personnel and where we are with that. You know, how can we better serve the community? Do we need more people? And we have to, as a council, we have to be open to that. You know, maybe shift things around, do something, but we need to be open to that. So that'll be an interesting topic, you know, budget time. It's a good time to do it, and not in the middle of the cycle, but right at the beginning, get it planned, get it done. So yeah, all in all, I think you've had a good orientation and what's been going on, and things have been going well. And I think we're communicating well. Get her done. That's about all I have.
Jules, I'm really excited to hear that from you. And Michelle, you're the walking proof. You know, just I'm so delighted that this is all working out so well. Yeah, I mean, it's so much easier to not have to get involved, but have the people there to do the job. So appreciate you bringing that to the table. I am just getting that this.
We're seeing progress. We're seeing departments. I just drove by there this morning, looked over there and see all the construction going on. It just, I don't know, it just does something to you. You know, we have, yeah. So that's a good thing. We got 21st Avenue. Hopefully that's going to keep moving forward. That's going to help our industrial park north there. That's progress. It's all progress that we're seeing. It's a good thing.
If I can back up just a second to the shipwreck thing. Are we in a position, we have, the Jeremy budget, both of it was, do we have electric resources, more resources in place over there?
Well, as Michelle mentioned, there's a meeting that goes right down that road that Cooper's put in. I think it's already set up.
Yes.
So, and it's got adequate fire protection, so we've got Jen from WSB has figured all that out, where that service is coming. It's in our electric service territory. So we haven't received, as far as I know, we haven't received an application for service or anything from that, but we are aware of it. Once we get all that numbers, if there is a equipment order, we will. So we've been a part of the city's design.
Because I was thinking, if they're going to have a brewery, are they going to need three-phase service? Yeah, I think it's pretty cool for them.
Yep, there's a cabinet right in the corner, right in front of the existing building. They're serviced right now by a single phase transformer. So, yeah, unless they put in a normally large service or something crazy off the wall, I think we're good to go. Yep, just good. You know, we might have a transformer, we might not. We'll see how big it is.
Yeah.
So, yep.
There, we've kept Keith in the loop and he's shared the information, and he was his staff was at the site plan review meeting last week. So everybody got a chance to look at the plans and provide input, which then was sent to the developer. And I think their plan is I don't think they're gonna formally apply for permits, in which case getting information to PUC until they finish or at least have gotten through, maybe not through the state part of the annexation, but at least gotten through the two readings of the ordinance so that they know that, you know, it's more or less a done deal. I mean, they still have to wait for the state stuff. So I think once they get through that and they have a level of comfort, then I can see them starting to apply for building permits and electrical permits.
I guess I was just trying to get a sense of if everything goes the way we expect.
Yeah.
Or slash hope,
Yeah,
then we're prepared. We've got our ducks in a row, our side of the street as it were, to March for. That's all good news, it sounds like. But we're whacking it, they said, cool.
All right, Mr. Chairman, it's just, this is a site plan for my property. That's not just sitting there stagnant. That is moving forward also. There's new information. New information on that. In fact, this morning was a lot of information on that. That's all I can say at this time. But it's not just sitting.
Okay, moving on, Mr. Butcher, the general manager's update.
Yeah, on the regulatory side, we did submit our MPCA DRF2 mirror permit report, which we have to do semi-annually, and then I also filed our MPCA hazardous waste report, which we have to do annually for that as well. On the legislative side, office staff, we decided our process for meeting the cold weather rule timelines. Per the Department of Commerce at last week's MWA conference, we anticipate the reporting progress to be pretty minimal, actually. DOC plans to utilize the existing e-heat system, and we only need to report on the number of notices sent each month, so that's a pretty light lift. We don't have to provide any customer-specific information, so therefore there's no concern with customer data privacy issues. Our required cold weather notice, which we have to do at the beginning of each cold weather season, will go out in September. On the administrative side, we are making progress on the credit check and deposits. I'll talk about that in more detail. We do have that as an agenda item. For IT, as part of our 5-year IT capital improvements plan, we're replacing 4 of our oldest computers. Mr. Bergman found a really good deal for us to be able to replace 4 of them with our existing budget, where we had only planned to replace 2 this year. So we're taking advantage of some good pricing and making sure our workstations stay up to date. We do have a scheduled next round of big check pictures for September 16th with Nancy Kelly, our ESR, the chairman, and myself. So more customers doing some more projects. And we're all a good thing. We did have an incident. We've got the AMIs, which I'll go to as well later on. But one of the last ones that we did have a situation with a customer that was concerned that the switch out resulted in some equipment failing. We would work with the customer to take care of their needs in that situation. Mr. Hanson and I did attend the FMUA summer conference last week. I thought it was really good. Talked about a whole slew of various issues affecting electric and water utilities. Got some updates from experts at the state and various other groups. I guess, Mr. Chairman, did you have anything you wanted to mention?
I just, it was interesting to hear the experts talking about things that are going on. I thought at legislature level, it's impacting us on a daily basis. Some of it, quite frankly, was a little shocking, but this should be naive. But nonetheless, people, MNUA and the folks that were there from Central seem to be on the top of that, moving in our direction. So we've got a lot of support in those areas. And when they first mentioned in one of the sessions that they widened the winter rule and that changed the regulations for disconnection to notify the Department of Commerce that, in case there'll be nice fines or whatever, all that before all this happens. But as the meetings went on, we found that there are ways to do this, and it's not quite the hope that I anticipated. So I think it's all good. It's all good that we have a handle on it, and the folks at MMUA seem to be out there talking to legislators and so forth, make sure they're here with some people for lives. There's going to be an impact. If you make a law, you're doable on this side before we just have somebody sign installations. It was very interesting. Lots of stuff going on all the way from here all the way to Washington that impacts the daily stuff. Reports that Kathy hasn't filed, reports that Keith hasn't filed, probably stuff that you have to write, but it's all out there, impacting our daily stuff. So that's a good chance to go. I'd certainly take the time. That's my 2 cents on that one.
Only other thing I want to mention is we will be coordinating with the Princeton Police Department and the Princeton Fire Department for Public Safety Day on September 11th. I reserved what's called the hazard hamlet, which is a safety tool to teach kids to stay away from fly kites, from children, and things of that nature. So we will we'll make sure that we have some folks there and work with the city on that event for the community. So that's September 11th. That concludes my update, unless there are any questions.
Okay, thank you. Ongoing business. Going back to you, yes, Keith.
Yes, sir. For AMI, for electric, we are 99.8% complete. I think there's only 5 meters. 6. Okay, 6 meters left. Just waiting on a couple of them for back order. One's in a very high location, and I think plastics too.
There's 3 at plastics. We got to shut the services off to rewire them. We have to add a 3rd voltage wire to the bigger socket that wasn't there previously. So,
But it will force them to shut completely down. We're probably going to schedule it for the holidays. We're thinking.
I've called them, left a message a couple different times, and it's called it. It's just,
Okay.
but yeah, we got to get it figured out though, because they're coming up quickly.
Yes. So we're doing everything we can to make this as easy as possible.
Okay.
On the water side, we're at 30.1%. Last update I had received was we were still anticipating getting some water notes in next month. We were told it's supposed to be in August, and then they could definitely wait another 30 days. The current information. Mr. Jerry, you want to just keep moving forward or do the rest of the ongoing business? For the ACH discussion, I don't have anything reported this time. I don't know if there are any questions.
Still something. Well, did we make a change on the pitch on our website to?
We did have that sign that we posted. I don't know if that's what you're referring to. I thought that was last.
Yeah, you did.
Last.
I thought you said something about put the sign up. I wondered if we did anything on the website. Well,
I saw a recent Facebook post
Yeah.
in the last couple of weeks.
I guess we thought there should.
I don't
Did you get any comments on that site? No,
Well,
says, I don't, what is that?
I'm not dealing with customers as much as the other girls are, so I don't know if they are or not. I haven't heard.
Well, maybe you can check Christian.
I could make a comment, maybe your email from Mr. Hans.
Yes.
Maybe that would be a good, suggest to him that he can have his deposit back if he does an ACH sign.
Interesting discussion to have.
Well, I mean, it would solve his late fee issues and
Yep.
whatever, but it seems like an opportune time to get one more sign up. Just a thought.
Well, thank you for that. What interesting segue.
Sorry.
You know, so there's a lot of things that could be tied into this. You know, we're all in agreement. We've had different conversations about how we want to handle this, but we're all in agreement on ACH makes the most sense for us and for our customers. So time that whether we want to have a discussion about 24 days, 24 months, or 12 months, or different kinds of schedules for penalties, and that's what we can have that discussion. But certainly the ACH lends itself very nicely in the situation that we have. A guy that has a job instead of put it on ACH. That makes it easy for us, and it makes it automatic. Next month. I'll try to that. It's 24 months.
We did have a policy change. Positive credits or breaks.
We have not.
Oh,
We were going
that's
to.
kind of.
Yeah, so that's what I'm saying, it's part of that same discussion. We're gonna move to a credit score based application, which I think we all makes some sense. We have to finalize that. Right. And then what you have to talk about, I think, is use credit. What's that number? They have to be 805 or 6. What is the number? And what are some of the other agencies now that we're talking to these people? What are some of the agencies using? What's Old County? What's I said? Sorry, I thought we were farther along.
Yeah, we already said our limit.
Yeah. Okay. Set the limit.
Yeah.
Okay. And all right.
Well, they don't, it's not a pure credit score, but it's, the commission had said to shoot for, I want to say it was 650.
Yeah.
Can't remember, but when I signed the contract with OU, set up, we set the limits to meet what the commission had discussed.
And when does that start?
Well, that's part of, I had that as an agenda,
Oh.
so I don't want to get too far ahead of myself.
Okay, so let's pick this up in a minute.
Okay.
I have one comment on that ACH. I have a rental property that is a condo association. And I was at a board meeting, Zoom board meeting, and one of the budget items was one of the incomes was $3,000 some dollars for the month from maintenance fees. And, they're trying so hard to get people to switch to ACH. One of the things they were trying to do is they raised convenience fees to 7%. And they still getting $3,000 of income off of 7%. People still would switch. I was one of them because I didn't realize they were charging me 7%, but the that's just interesting. We're not the only ones. Committee board discussion. The cost of
I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
I'm just going to simply share that, as we were told, Nexus did officially waive their legal fees, starting with those that just went out, so they're no longer charged.
I make sure that we are consistent and that we remember past meetings and that we have set to put this in place for the new year. So as we get closer, I don't want to hear, well, we didn't decide that, or the countdown has to be done. So when we go to the budget and everything else, that
when
needs to
is
be in place.
when do we set the budget? What was the final?
I started work on it. Typically, I like to, well, at least I should say right last year, present the clear budget in October. We can continue to have discussion. That's the time.
Which would be just it would be nice. December is what
We usually make a shift in those November and December meetings for the holidays instead of having it on. But we have Thanksgiving this year is on November. Is that correct? And I thought last year. So that's it. And then December. This December this year. It's impressive. December 22nd. This is on Saturday.
The only reason I'm asking that is because my term's up at the end of this year. I'd like to get involved in that. Part of it.
December 31st.
So we have to that.
That's why I want to, I really do want to make sure that this has an end date, because the three of us, all of us support on this,
Right.
and to bring it into the new year. I just, I'm going to share a comment with somebody once that we're, you have experience in the background, but you don't understand the difference between the nonprofit and profit. And I immediately said, I totally understand the difference between a profit, nonprofit, and profit. See reports, I get it. But I still remain steadfast that if you are a nonprofit and you have a $26,000 or $32,000 expenditure that you could fix, you're still responsible for that. Doesn't mean you just have money to throw around. Who cares? That's still a savings that you can go into and attack and break the bottom line to help people. So you get a nonprofit, I understand business, and to me, that's still a place to stay. So like I say, remember the last meetings we've had, we agreed to do all of this, and there's an end date. And it's in
Well,
2020.
There has not been a motion and a vote, so when you say that we agreed to do this, I'm unclear as to what it is.
Working.
Yeah, but with the time period that we are in the last several months of to educate instead of just sitting, to continue to educate. But then if this is happening and people still aren't switching, there's no way personally that I'm going to just allow that to just continue, especially if it's going the wrong way. So there will be a time where there's going to be a motion and vote, and if I don't make that, that's totally fine. Doing that. If the mayor makes a statement to sharpen our pencil, well, that's a place to sharpen our pencil. For a raise increase of any kind, that's as far as my stance is. It has nothing to do with nonprofit profit. It's just good business.
I just want to make sure I'm calling this, we determined that this was going to be a budget.
There was going to be a discussion during the budget.
Right, that was the budget
Yes.
discussion.
Yes,
Yeah.
but that's what I.
So I do a vote for my. It's gonna be-
But that's right. I totally agree with that. That's why we haven't voted or
Yeah,
because it's going to happen then. Or should happen.
It will be part of the budget discussion.
Correct.
Okay. Just, I want to make sure
That's
that
my understanding.
as I'm, keep it fresh and we're keep the ball rolling. Okay, many men will require.
Yes, this was actually a suggestion by Commissioner Erickson. We presented a memo last time with proposed language to the service rules. Not received any questions or concerns from either the public. Unless there's any comments at this time, I guess I'm looking to see if the commission wants to move forward with making a motion to update the service rules to include the mini manhole requirement.
And that's simply to turn water on and off from the.
It is to adjust the curb stop that ends up being in driveways or sidewalks. And due to the freezing and thawing process, it sometimes pulls up the curb stop and then it can get hit by a plow or other things and get damaged. If you do a mini manhole, it kind of floats with the concrete pavement or whatever to prevent damage.
I think the way Scott explained it, at the last meeting makes perfect sense to go that road, and you're kind of that business where you deal with that, so we don't necessarily look to you.
Yeah, we're putting, most places require. So if the shut off is in the driveway, we're putting it in, but even if they're not, it's just a good way to protect that shut off. We'll be able to find it, sometimes they can, they're out there. Yeah, detectives trying to figure out, or somebody's, recreating their yard and then that thing over and they cover it up and it, it can be. Yeah, we'll be able to find it, and if we need to do shut-offs, for whatever reason, it's just a lot of this.
Okay, but the language in front of the commission is that if the curb stop falls within the driveway or it will be a case of blacktop or concrete, then they are required. We are silent on
The rest of yeah, I guess I've never seen any of this.
Okay.
But I would, if it was me, if mine was in the yard, I'd sure. But yeah, definitely driveways, that's going to take the most abuse, or because somebody replaces the driveway, it's just.
Okay, but I'm sorry, I want to make sure that we're all on the same page on this, because as far as I understand it, if you're repaving a driveway, you're not required to pull a permit. So there isn't a way for us to know and therefore enforce it in a retrofit application. The intent of this is for new construction. So if a development comes in, and typically they try not to put them in driveways and things like that.
Yeah.
And so, but once the mains go in, then depending on how things get sold, sometimes things can move around, and that's what happens. We're really trying to catch those new developments going forward. The intent of this wasn't to then retroactively go back.
Yeah.
And to catch a whole bunch of customers.
Too much.
Yeah.
But what worked in the past doesn't necessarily the best for the future.
Okay.
So the motion should be to.
It's all your fault.
Mr. Chairman, maybe I just, no, yeah, I probably have this fault to all this because last winter mine must have, the weather changed and the plow came and bent it over. And Scott was really good, temporarily fixed it and everything, but would that mean, and then now this spring, he went around to the whole development and did something, put tar over.
Yeah, they repaired.
Oh, okay, this now, if it happens in the future, then I'd have to, as a homeowner, I'd have to repair it. No, if it happens again.
No.
Oh, okay. Only for new developments. Oh,
So we call
okay, I'm sorry.
Zimmerman motion, is that what you're
I love it.
Always that one customer.
One of the things that I noticed is once some of the different cities started requiring this, I noticed the developers really tried to work. That was the driveway, it was before that. So it was at $50 times 100 lots, we'll just put it right over here. Well, that's the cost of that plus the installation of the program, so it's like $200. So 200 times, well, maybe $200 expense, just what's that most price? Yeah. So.
And there also is a budget impact associated with this motion because we would need to have some in inventory. We estimated that the cost is about $125 each, and wanted to have 6 in inventory for the situation.
How many did we?
Oh, that's
When we
right.
first started buying them, they were $50. We got maybe 20.
Oh, yeah, Scott had checked into it.
Yeah.
So the motion is to accept this memorandum as what's the language need to be like?
It is in the memo italicized, so the language that would be added to section 103.1 of the service rules is that, quote, the property owner is responsible for the cost of installing a blue manhole for the curb stop, falls into the driveway, or the case of blacktop or concrete. New manholes are required and must be purchased from this utilities. 103.1 is a construction section.
We would just be selling it to costs.
Correct.
Yeah. So we should be make people buy something for selling at cost.
Look at the motion.
So.
The additional language. Section 103.1 is okay. Make the second, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Yo, motion's carried. Okay. Going on to deposit policy.
Yes, at the last meeting, my commission requested that staff research on application fees, setup charges, it goes back a couple different names of neighboring utilities for new customer applications. We started off by looking on websites. Unfortunately, websites were not very informative. A lot of utilities didn't seem to report on what those specific fees were. So staff actually had to spend quite a bit of time actually calling each utility. Excel, after about waiting an hour for Excel, we had to move on. And so this is just purely informative to address the commission's question. So I just offer that as an FYI.
And ours is.
Currently zero.
Pardon?
Currently zero.
Yeah.
But the question has come up that by going to a credit check in lieu of deposits, we do incur a charge estimated to be around $4.30 per application. So I'm looking for direction from the commission as to whether or not you want us to charge an application fee for the new credit check process.
Is that something that we would do sometimes in budget discussions with the?
Well, we have been working towards implementing the credit checks sooner than that. I'm hoping to get everything transitioned over late September, early October, if possible. If you want me to delay on that, we can certainly do that. I think that's.
Comments? I can't for the life of me think of a reason to delay implementing that. It just has to be given enough. We have to let people know that this is coming. So whether it's going to come in the 1st of October, or 1st of November, we can decide that. But I think the decision's been made to go with that. Let's pick a date and that gives the community enough time to respond. And
Well, if I may, just from a logistical standpoint, these are applications for new customers. So by definition, they're not members of the community. So, communicating it to our existing customers doesn't make a whole lot of difference.
Yeah, it doesn't apply to them unless maybe
okay,
case of Mr. Huffman, if he wanted to maybe apply for a credit check to give us the
That brings that gets into a whole other question I have for the commission, but I think first off, I would like some direction as to the application. Which is now. It's no how much.
I personally think we should have one. We should cover our costs because you have the admin cost of doing it. And if you look to the Oak River and Laura, they're at $20, and there's
the server is at 0.
Oak River's at 20.
For
Oh, correct, okay, all right, thank you for that correction.
And I don't know if we're doing a credit check or not.
Yeah, I don't know.
If they're being, I agree, Rick, I'd like to cover our costs, you know. Nonprofit costs would be great.
I mean, the admin cost is there, but we've had the admin, part of this whole conversation is we have an extra charge for filing, for processing credit cards and whatnot. We have that, it shows up on the budget, we know what that number is. Because we track it separately from all of the other administrative costs. If we somehow track all of the admin costs for everything else, the credit card charge might seem minuscule, but we don't check it as a matter of a separate item right on our budget like we do the credit card. So, an accountant might come by and say, well, yeah, credit cards are this, but if you don't have the credit card, processing the checks and all this other stuff is actually costing you X plus 10 or something, then you have a whole different conversation there. I think the credit check, separate from everything else, the credit check idea to eliminate the deposit is a great idea. We should move forward. Could we have, I didn't cover the costs, but the administrative costs we're doing anyway, regardless of it. And that's all part of our GA. We ought to just move on.
Do we have a cost in the credit check? We got to go to that.
The estimated cost is $4.
Oh,
So if we did a $5 deal, we've got that.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, just interact on those comments. Anytime that I brought up changing the status quo, I've heard back immediately that, well, if we do this, then we do this, and it takes more time, there's more administrative costs in that. So what I'm trying to do is hear those complaints when something changes and address those complaints with that that's a charge.
Mhm.
So, we need to eliminate the admin comments on other changes, so we don't keep hearing that, or we need to charge for it, from my perspective.
sorry, lots of good points.
Yeah. But that's what I mean, we get out of these conversations and.
I mean, if it's a $4 charge for the credit, for the credit.
We can always change.
Yeah,
So I guess what I would do is make a motion to just simply have a $10 fee and see how it goes the first year, cover your costs, throw a little bit towards admin. And we can always change that. And I just don't see anyone complaining about a $10 charge. And I don't think that app is going to take us that long. So rather than trying to make money on that, which we can't take.
well, I think it's gonna be much better to put $10 if you have good credit than $200 whatever.
Right.
So either way, it's for people with good credit.
And it's only for the new customer,
Right.
so you can always change it, but I would make that motion to listen to that charge, and that charge be $10.
I can do it. Also,
Okay. Motion has been made to phrase this way. Pay attention to what it states.
Did you pay attention to what I said?
I know, it's not a back foot. So we'll move it. The motion has been made to move forward with an application fee for everyone.
Correct.
For every new customer.
I mean, residential, commercial.
What you said,
Okay, just one more.
that application fee will be $10. She's been made and seconded. Further conversation.
would there be any more cost for a commercial versus a residential?
Our current proposal does not do a credit check. for businesses. That does have a much higher cost. You're just basing it in a credit check on residential.
And currently, we charge commercial.
Should that language reflect that this is?
Well, usually we hold anybody accountable in a business.
We can run a credit check on the business, but that is much more
So
expensive.
it could be, sign for the business.
I think it depends on the business structure.
Yeah.
You know, whether it's a sole proprietorship or LLC,
Right.
whatever. That's where that stuff is very fun.
I'm going to amend my motion to include to run this as stated for 1 year and review it in 1 year. And then we can make those adjustments if we need to, because then it is going to be a whole different structure and different motion if we're going to include.
So this would be for everyone. Is your motion for residential only or for residential?
Well, I don't want to collect $10 to spend 200. We haven't been charging commercial now.
Not for we're doing it.
We're not.
Oh, we're doing it.
We are still doing if they have a higher utility.
Yeah.
It's hard, I don't know how many businesses come in
Right.
that are relocating as opposed to making business. A lot of new businesses that would have to be commercial with positive solution. But there's not, you can't run a personal credit check. on that notice. There's no social security number.
Yeah, you cannot guarantee it.
But yeah, it's not.
Yeah. Motion, please.
So, I'm sorry, could you just restate, is it $10 just for residential?
Yes.
So the language that's here should include where it says
Says the
property owner should say the residential property owner.
It's the 103.
No, that was the minivan.
Yeah.
That was.
Oh, that's okay. So this
I have
so
So there's no free
It would
language.
just be residential.
So my motion stands as amended. Second.
Is there any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Given that there's an application. And we are moving towards the credit check. What do we do for existing?
What?
For existing. That have.
Guy has a deposit fund of $1 million. He comes out and says, here, do my credit check. It's $850.
Well, for the case of public comment.
As an example.
That's an example, right? I mean, I think it's $10
So they would be.
application fee
application fee to cover the
because
cost.
it's the cost of doing the credit check.
He still pays the fee,
And if he's,
but he's got whatever this is, 275 or whatever it is, 350. He's got. He pays the $10, says my credit's fine, and comes back, says, yeah, he's called it, we give him his deposit back.
or
Or if not.
or if they pay for a year, whatever, they pay on time, they get it back. One way or the other. So, like, I agree with what his comment was. I might have been late, but I've always paid. And there are people like, they always pay the late fees, sales. But if the credit's good, they're usually not that far behind, but you can't pay all of it.
Sounds like you have more of a timing problem.
Right.
It's just jack.
And his comment was that it should. They're more lenient. I know, be careful. I know it's very fair.
Michelle's comment is that he's a perfect candidate for ACH. save some time, save some
Sure.
money.
That might solve the problem, or if he really wants the money back and he's got good credit, then it's $10 for credit.
So the motion is to make the pass. What we're really discussing now is what do we tell these folks? How are they gonna handle it? If
That's
somebody-
why I'm asking the questions of this.
Yeah, well, you know,
I think that, you know, if we've got a new policy for new people, it should apply to all people.
So if they want to come in and take the application, we will credit check. And that's good.
If we encourage, encounter a charge, that's a waste of $10.
Is that true for, so currently our policy is two different things to make up for a renter or a home. Renters, we don't get deposits back. Are we changing that?
I wouldn't ever give them back if they're living there. I mean, I don't know what your experience, Dan, is, but that's why we always charge the first month, last month, and the dinner's deposit.
I mean, if they have good credit, they're usually want to maintain. It's my experience that people with good credit because they pay. Not that they're never late, but I don't want to really.
if we set the standard at whatever that number is, I think it's important that we let that standard across the board for ratepayers. To say, the credit's good, everything else, but for our renter.
Yeah.
So I don't think that's a good message to send out.
Well, just to point out, the reason, I just want to make sure we're all.
I know where you're going, I think I know where you're going.
It's because of the ability to assign estimates. That's why there's.
Right.
Or
Which
why,
would then would fall on the landlord.
no, you can't. For the electric, the water and
Yeah.
sewer we can. The electric though, there is some statutory language there. So the risk is higher for a renter in our case than than a property. And that's why.
Yeah.
It's the way it is.
I get it, I understand that there's a higher risk, but I think sometimes we have to take that risk to welcome people to the community. And I think, we've got enough rental movements going on.
Yeah, we got-
et cetera here.
Yeah, we got 98 people coming up there, and we applying. And put a deposit down on the first and last one's from.
And, if they have a credit problem, it's gonna show up. And
Yeah.
say, we've got, right, how many for that is made it possible? If you've got a great credit score, or a good score, I don't know what that number is still, but whatever the number is, just say, okay, this is it, we're gonna take a risk with those new people coming in.
Like I said, to Rich, answer your question, as well as my experience. My experience is if they have decent credit, they want to keep it, because usually they're like close to buying a house or something, they don't want to mess it up. Credit, credit score is just great. Is it fail safe?
Yeah, with renters, I agree with that statement, Dan, that, the credit score is a good credit score. But I'm also gonna just say there's a percentage, whatever that percentage is, that there's a percentage of renters like changes more frequently than a permanent. Like, the percentage goes up by what degree, I don't know.
But I think that's gonna be reflected. in the
Uh,
scores.
Again, I think maybe we look at this in a year.
Yeah.
And if it's a problem, then
Let it be
we have
introduced.
a loss, mostly from renters using this new system, we might have to reassess it.
So, but what that means to you is that change the policy, correct?
I will be bringing language next time to update our service rules to reflect this new paradigm.
For the time being, these guys, I don't know when to start this program, could be Thursday. But right now, metro stays until election. But people that are existing customers, the customer doesn't say, I just heard about this.
Well,
When will that take?
okay, if that's the intention, then we can't launch this before the next commission. Because the deposit policy currently has nothing about credit checks. It's all about 24-month payments. So if we can't change it for renters until we update that policy, then that's true for everything. See what I'm saying? So the question is the commission will be to move forward and implement this, and we'll update the service rules next time. If I can want earlier to do that, or do you want me to wait until we have language in front of us about the service rules?
So the motion that was made, just voted on, is simply that an application be attached to an application. It doesn't change any of the policy.
Correct.
Just gives you that. Let's move forward with that.
Okay.
Let's get the language in place for the next meeting, so that we can talk about 24 months.
Right, but isn't, I'm sorry, I want to make sure I'm clear, but isn't the intention to charge the application fee when we switch to the credit check process? You don't want me to start it like tomorrow, even though we're not doing a credit check this year. Is it, don't we care about this all?
No.
Be at the same
I don't think that's the intent.
One slice is better than a bunch of drops.
Yeah, so I think what I'm hearing is we can probably shoot for like an October 1st launch date, so I'll have language available for the commission. If necessary, at the next meeting.
That's my problem.
Okay.
So, yeah. Right. So, do you have a concern from the renters? Have you seen some red flags go up there?
No, I'm just trying to present the information to the three of you so that you know some of the history, some of the different strategies that it implemented. We can, I mean, you know.
I mean, it's clear that, is that where do we see the most that fall that far? Is it all in the one group or another, renters versus owners?
I would, one of the nice things about the credit checks is even if they don't pass the credit check, we can still do social security number verifications, which we have. Part of the problem we can run into when you see this, I worry that you do see people who give false social security numbers tend to be more transient, which tend to lead more towards renting. So, and since landlords don't always tell us when renters leave, renters don't always give forwarding addresses. Because keep in mind, even if not police or everybody. Yes, I do think there is a higher risk, whether it's high enough to warrant different treatment. That's for you to decide. We can do it either way. Ultimately, you folks are right. Ultimately, where you're going to see it at is at the end of the year when we have to do assessments and write-offs to keep track of those numbers.
And well, for the landlords that are doing background checks, the market is, the demand is as it is. It's probably that's probably reflected through the utilities. Also, for the ones that do that, not everybody does background checks. So. Yeah, it'd be interesting to see. And, you know, we might be talking about a different conversation. But I think we need to move forward. The language. Donation policy.
Okay, deposit policy. Or I'm sorry, donation policy. Again, at the last meeting, the commission instructed staff to provide a report on cash donations made by this over the last few years. I presented in the memo the last 3 years for what we have, like I said, donated in cash to different groups. Part of this was because the commission is considering having a grant type program. In addition, the city was kind enough to present me a copy of their grant funding request form, so you can see what the city asked for when for organizations that are soliciting funds via a grant making process. So this is just provided for informational purposes, and just wanted to see where the commission is going.
So because we're a utility, we fall outside state's prohibition against cities. Is that so?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that, sir?
The state of Minnesota prohibits cities from making donations because we're a utility, we're not a city government. State, there's nothing in the state language that prohibits us from making. They have the workaround of the Wine Spirits organization.
Well, I'll try to answer that question. I don't know what utilities, and technically, the way that we do it is we're running the donations out of the liquor fund. So it's Princeton Wine and Spirits, which is essentially managed by, but has a separate revenue stream outside of property taxes,
Right.
because I think that's the link is you can't rob from Peter to pay Paul via property taxes, but because these are profits from people voluntarily purchasing a product, that's where the funds are dedicated out of. So given that you have ratepayers and not property taxpayers, I'm guessing it's very similar. There's a corollary relationship between wine and spirits and the utilities. So I would recommend that you double check that.
I have not heard of a legal prohibition against it. I do know that utilities are particularly municipal utilities tend to be very cautious about it. But I don't know of any hard prohibition.
Well, I'm just
But I'm not a legal expert.
if the state has a prohibition against cities, how, I was looking for the mechanism, how do we get off from under it? They got off from under it by the Wine and Spirits organization that generates profit, so that's a little different than tax money, I get it. So we have tax ratepayers that are paying.
We receive our revenues from taxes.
No, exactly.
And that's
the separation I was looking for. So
that is my understanding.
given that, then I think a form like the one that they're using here, if you don't copy it word for word, would be appropriate for us to use with anybody. I mean, some of
Just
the
change
fo-
the names to protect the ends. That's the case.
as long as we say Michelle said it.
Michelle, okay.
Yeah.
And we are a nonprofit, so we want, usually the nonprofits are asking for donations.
You know, it's for like, you know, for the city, we're gonna give them, we gave them $2,500. So Michelle submit another one for next year.
I'll tell Stephanie.
But the organizations that we're looking at, the amounts are not today jump change here. So we want to have a pretty good idea that this is a worthwhile organization. So we have, here's the form, here's what they're doing. This makes sense as a community to support them. That's what I'm looking for. And I think this will suit our case.
I have a question. We're just reading this first. The state of Minnesota prohibits cities from making charitable contributions. I'm just thinking back to the city council meeting, where Councilor Harold asked, does the city there was no answer there.
That's because it's pending research, so.
Because
But
if the city did own utilities that are within, it would be,
Well,
could
but
have
my,
been the city. That's not
mean-
where I was going.
That's interesting.
I would have to look to see. But if you are, if the state of Minnesota, I mean, if you're filing your whatever requirement required paperwork with the state of Minnesota, because every nonprofit, like for the Fair Board, we have to file every year with the Secretary of State's office to maintain our 501c3 nonprofit status. Now, whether or not the same applies to a municipal utility, and you have separate, when the city set up the PUC, if they set it up as a separate independent corporation, separate from with a separate tax number, EIN number with the state, then I would say, even though Princeton is in the name of both entities, you would be considered by the state, you're a separate entity. But I haven't verified that with Damien, our city attorney, so I mean, that's a question that we need to do more research on.
Yeah, but if that were the case, okay, this could be considered the city of Princeton.
But-
Potentially, I mean, it could,
But, yeah,
an attorney would for sure make that argument.
well, and that's why, while there's a corollary relationship between Princeton Wine Spirits profits and whatever you have in your budget for your, based on ratepayers and not tax payments, I think that's a somewhat of a moot point in regards to discussion. I think that, again, I would advise you to speak to SIMPA or whoever other advisory body you have. And then, again, the direction from the council, we are to come back towards, as part of the budget discussion, towards the end of the year with the answers to those questions that were raised. So, and I will make sure to share that with.
Otherwise, you have to just change the name. It's almost. Well. Keith, you feel this is something about killer powers, somebody that had a rape in this powers? Well, I mean, we're not the first municipal utility to grant funds to the Boy Scouts or Girl Scouts or some Scouts for a project whatsoever. Another. So this is not a new subject. I just think we have verification. We're on the right path. Forever.
I would think that to protect ourselves, we want some sort of agree to do this, not the condition to January. If we have somebody that we know is supposed to be focused, but I think some authoritative for liability purposes, we shouldn't be rewriting this in a Word document as safe as possible.
That first line out there is.
Yeah.
See, it prohibits something. We better make sure we're not just,
Unfortunately, I've had somebody come out and say, "Would you do this?" And we said, yeah. No, when you formalize it, whether we use this exact language or not, when you formalize it, now it's a matter of public record, not forms in our files. Yeah. We need to be. Right.
I look at that first sentence, I looked at lower your expectations because I'm not going to.
Well, I mean, there's always there's always the time for there's always the time for things, for charitable contributions. When I read that, I was thinking, oh, we are a city. Right? because we've done it in the past, doesn't make it right. I've learned that lesson.
So the commission wants me to reach out to send that.
So maybe they have something like this too.
Thank you, Rob. I think the application is one part of it that I think in our budget. we need to discuss.
Yeah, that's a separate issue, but.
Right.
For the budget conversation. Yeah. Whether we have an application or not, should get a little record. Right. Should always be known, that we did have application. Yeah. Okay. Anything under new business? Mr. Butcher?
No, sir.
Mr. Schwartz? Mr. Erickson? I have none. That being the case, I would entertain. a motion for adjournment. So moved. I'll second. Motion is made and seconded. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Motion is carried. Thank you all.
Thank you. Question. Am I missing something?